Hi, my name is Corey Gerard, and I'm coming back to you at Monster Wars for part 2 of the battle between Amenia, the Vampire Queen, and the Charmed Ones. So, the scene is now shown in paradise, where the entire Hollowell line of deceased women are seen standing together in a beautiful garden of colorful crystals. These good spirits are surrounded by white light emissions. Then suddenly a Hollowell lady takes to flight, so the rest of her family follows. Prue, her mother, and grandmother are then shown flying together as they smile of bliss. Now we see the soaring good witches enter into a heaven of colorful, emotional cities, which lets the visitors immerse themselves in the most pleasant of feelings. So Prue is then seen flying up ahead of her family host, and then leads them into the lavender city of joy. Now Prue's light aura changes into the lightest shade of purple, along with the rest of her family here, as seen doing so. Their spiritual forms are then shown being affected by purest joy, and they appear to love it. Then all of a sudden, Prue changes her facial expression, and so does her mother and grandmother. Prue now looks as if something is wrong, and then she quickly changes flight direction and flies out of this city. Her mother and grandmother are also shown leaving with the charmed daughter. The scene then lifts above these ladies as many rainbows appeared around them. Now, from a high view perspective, we see Prue standing in a beautiful flower field, which looks to be full of golden grave headstones. The scene then draws closer to this good witch and shows Prue looking at her very own grave headstone that says Prudence Hollowell. Now her mother and grandmother appear right behind her, and then we see Prue turn to face them and says, "There is something not right with all of this." Prue's mother is seen, and she says, "What isn't right about heaven, my darling?" So Prue now replies by saying, "I know where I'm at, Mom, but every so often I get this strange feeling." Prue's grandmother then makes a serious looking expression and says, "Prue, there is something you need to know." So Prue's mother, Patty, replies, "Mom, she might not be prepared." We then see Prue reply, "What are you both hiding from me?" Now the grandmother and mother take hold of Prue's hands and says a remembrance spell, "Restore the memories which were lost, assured as winters brought cold and frost." Then all of a sudden, Prue's mind is seen flooded with memories of her sisters that were taken from her. Now images are shown of Prue as a child. Then her two sisters, Piper and Phoebe, appear in these kid memories. Then Prue and her sisters' childhoods are quickly shown speeding up until Prue's death is seen. Now these mental images stop, and then Prue is shown making an angry look at her mom and grandma. She now says, "You erased my memories of Piper and Phoebe and made me think I was an only child," as seen saying so. Prue's grandmother then replies, "We did what we thought was best for you because you found it difficult to move on." Now we see Prue shake her head no as tears run down her face, and she replies, "But they are my sisters. I need them and they need me too." Prue's mother then puts her hand on the grief-stricken daughter and says, "There's more, my dear." Now the scene suddenly changes and it next appears high above at a nighttime sky. The motion then quickly moves to the charmed one's house, and we now see that its attic light is turned on. Next, the three sister witches are shown looking at an approaching vampire queen, who's seen wearing a black warrior outfit with tall boots on. Now, Queen Amenia is seen and heard replying, "Submit to my will, or surely you are doomed." Then Piper responds by aiming both hands at Amenia and then shoots her explosive power at the lady vampire. But Amenia avoids that blast by using quick feet motioning as shown doing so. Then Paige is seen transforming herself into a spiraling orb, blue light energy orb that encircles Amenia quickly. Next, we see Phoebe levitate, flip behind Amenia, and then places both of her hands over the vampire queen's temples. Now, as Paige's orbing light distracts Amenia, Phoebe begins to reflect psychic images into the vampire's mind as seen doing. Then Piper is shown moving in for another exploding attack. Amenia now replies, "I bore quickly of these childish games," and then suddenly static shocks Phoebe by emitting her eyes to glow bright red. Next, the vampire queen throws Phoebe onto Piper, and both are shown hitting the attic floor. We then see Paige turn back into her human form, but an angry-looking queen grabs this witch by the neck while Paige is still surrounded by her orb light. Then Amenia's glowing eyes are shown shooting white lightning out of them at the fourth sister, and then Paige's orb light turns into freezing cold. Now the vampire queen is seen throwing a frozen Paige near Piper and Phoebe. Now Piper is seen removing Paige's cold by saying the spell, "Freeze, cold removed from Paige, go to was scent of rage." Then all of a sudden, the ice on Paige is shown quickly leaving and then covers Amenia. Now the three witches are seen watching a standing, frost-covered mystic. Then suddenly the ice around Amenia fastly breaks, and then the vampire quickly floats to the top of the attic as the sisters appear a lot surprised. Now we see Piper attempt to blow the queen up by using her explosive power again, but Amenia deflects those exploding blasts with her energy surrounds. Then Amenia lands in front of the witches in a hurry and backhands Piper into the left wall, throws Paige into the right wall, and pushes Phoebe near the attic's front window as shown doing so. Next, Amenia flies to the high attic again and uses her telekinesis power to lift the broken ice into the air. We then see Amenia transform the ice into a bunch of knife-like weapons with a hand gesture. Now the three sisters are shown rushing to each other, and Piper is seen saying, "Leo, you picked a fine time to take Wyatt camping." Now the queen aims the hovering ice at the witches as she makes the sharp pieces spin while seen twirling them. Then all of a sudden, Prue materializes in front of her three sisters as Amenia sends those ice daggers flying at them. Prue then makes the ice knives fly into the wall by using her mind over matter power. Now Piper and Phoebe are seen yelling Prue, and then Paige says Prue in a softer tone. Prue is then seen using her telekinesis to throw heavy objects up at the floating queen and replies, "Come on, sisters, we can have the reunion later." So Piper joins in and begins to shoot explosive blasts at the vampire. Now Amenia is seen conjuring a golden armored suit on her entire body as Piper's explosives and Prue's objects hit her repeatedly. Now Paige is shown transforming back into orb light and then circles it around Amenia's head. Now Piper knocks the queen to the floor with one of those exploding blasts, but Amenia is still covered with protective armor, which has a red dragon center, and only her head is exposed. We then see Paige's transformation back, and she gestures her right hand and says, "Crystals, circle." Then her orbing magic puts 4 crystal stones around Amenia, which now traps the vampire queen in an energy cage. Now Piper and Phoebe are shown hugging their once dead sister Prue. Prue then replies, "Come here, Paige, you gotta get in on this too." So Paige joins her 3 sisters in the embrace. Then the Book of Shadows cover is shown, and its triangle symbol has now turned into a diamond and square shape that indicates the power of 4. Now the sisters are shown breaking their embrace, and Piper remarks, "So Prue, you are a ghost sister now, eh?" Then Prue smiles and says, "Come on, would a ghost really dressed this good?" Of course, Prue was describing her newly acquired blue jean outfit. Now Phoebe is shown saying, "Come on, girls, we gotta vanquish Amenia because that cage won't hold her forever." Then the 4 sisters walk over to their book, and Prue finds the page about the vampire queen, as shown doing so. Amenia is next shown inside of that energy cage, and she makes a confident, fanged smile. Now Paige is seen saying, "Amenia is the heart of the wolf, ram, and hart." Then Piper is shown replying, "Wait a minute, this sounds like the name of that new law firm that's popping up everywhere." Phoebe then responds, "Right you are, it's called Wolf, Ram, and Hart." Then suddenly Amenia is heard laughing out loud, and then the sisters are seen rushing over to her. They can see that the vampire queen is no longer wearing her armor. So Amenia touches the energy cage, and then its emission becomes a reddish color, as seen doing so. Now the sisters appear to be in shock as Phoebe yells, "What has she done?" So Amenia is seen replying, "I've done this." We then see the queen shoot the 4 sister witches with red lightning bolts, which came from the very cage. The charmed ones are next shown hitting the ground, and then Amenia is seen stepping out of the cage. Then a very angry-looking vampire queen growls, and then lifts all 4 sisters into the air with her mind, and throws them into attic walls with her matter-moving power. Amenia then grabs them back up with her mind again, and then pushes them halfway out of the attic's window. But this queen vampire quickly brings them back to her. Now the battered 4 sisters are shown held up by Amenia's telekinetic power. Then the charmed begin to cry tears of blood as they float still above this goddess supreme. Then suddenly the mother and grandmother of the charmed ones appear behind Amenia. These deceased spirits glow in a light golden ghost-like aura as shown. We then see the ghost yell, "No," and stop. So Amenia drops the witches and turns to face the parent and grandparent of the charmed ones. Now we see the grandma Penny say, "You don't belong in this reality." So Amenia responds by blasting both ghosts with rays from her eyes, and then the mom and grandma are shown turning into red glass statues. Now the sisters are shown slowly getting to their feet, and then they look at the statues of glass. Now the charmed ones are seen saying, "Mom, Gram, what has she done to you?" Then suddenly the room fills with mist and surrounds the sisters as shown doing so. This thick smoke appears to be having an intoxicating effect on them because they now seem as so. And then Prue says, "Where is that she-devil?" So Amenia appears quickly, then bites Phoebe on her neck from behind. The vampire queen next bites Paige and Piper on that same exact spot. And then those three sisters are shown falling into a trance. And finally, Amenia appears behind Prue and is shown preparing to bite her as well. But her mother's voice is now heard, and it says, "Prue, unlock the Book of Shadows." So as the vampire queen bites down, we see Prue reply, "Potions were stirred like meals would cook. Unlock your true power, Grand Source Book." Then all of a sudden, we see the Book of Shadows float, and then Amenia steps back as it shoots the four sisters with revitalization rays, as shown. Then the queen vampire is shown smiling and responds by saying, "No, your book will not save you from me, for your witchcraft is outlawed there." Then suddenly Amenia opens a portal above the Book of Shadows. Then a large picture cover Bible is shown falling out and onto the Book of Shadows. Now both books are seen engaging each other in a struggle as Amenia and the four charmed sisters look on. Then the Bible is shown flipping pages, and then it stops at page 317. Now that Bible attacks the Book of Shadows again, and then the cross-covered text sends clamping chains around the witch's spell book. Then a blinding light suddenly fills the attic room, and then the scene shows pure white light from outside of the house. Then the scene returns to the attic and shows the four sisters standing in front of their Book of Shadows, which is placed back on its stand. And the sisters are shown looking at the book's page with Amenia on it. Then the vampire queen's photo begins to show motioning, and Paige says, "Look, her picture is moving around." Now Amenia's loud voice is heard replying, "Right you are, witch." Then quickly Amenia climbs halfway out of the Book of Shadows, grows two more hands and arms, and then pulls all four sisters down into the book with her. The end. Thanks for tuning in to this exciting battle at Monster Wars. Stay tuned for the next one.